Alright, when we look at Homelander, we're not just dealing with a sociopath pretending to be a superhero, we're staring at the anatomy of a living superweapon, an experiment that went terribly right and spawned an individual with a pathological need to be loved. The big question that keeps hammering in anyone's head who's paying attention is he really just a nutjob trying to be America's unwavering symbol? Or just the most dangerous and psychologically unstable experiment ever created by Vought? Let's peel back each layer. Specifically the series version of this character with a god complex. His origin dates back to Project Odessa in 1981, where Soldier Boy's genetic material was the base for creating a being injected with Compound V while still in the blastocyst stage. His birth was an event of pure horror. He literally ripped his way out of his surrogate mother's uterus with his heat vision, killing her and several doctors in the process. From the first second of his existence, Homelander was a destruction machine, a body molded not by nature, but by Vaught's twisted science. His physiology is a testament to how corporate ambition can create a monstrosity, a being that, according to Madeline Stillwell, is immune to any weapon on Earth, even suggesting resistance to nuclear explosions. He can survive in the vacuum of space, an environment that would disintegrate any common human in seconds. His blood, saturated with Compound V, grants him an absurd regenerative capacity, healing severe injuries in a matter of hours. But even this invulnerability has its blind spots, like zinc, which blocks his X-ray vision, and vulnerability to certain sound frequencies, although he has developed remarkable resistance to them throughout his life of experiments. This is his biological foundation, a body that defies all natural logic, a work of genetic engineering and human cruelty. It's the anatomy of a monster, created to be the greatest hero, but who became the greatest threat. This stuff is messed up. The true dimension of his power isn't just in his brute strength, but in his ability to corrupt everything around him, to turn hope into fear and adoration into terror. He's the personification of the American nightmare, an icon empty of morality, filled only by an insatiable thirst for validation and control. Vought didn't create a savior, but rather a distorted reflection of the very society that idolizes him, a mirror that reveals the worst facets of the pursuit of power and glory at any cost. In my opinion, Homelander's powers are a brutal and uncontrolled manifestation of what happens when science plays God. His strength is catastrophic level, capable of leveling an entire city in minutes if he so desires. He lifts planes with terrifying ease, and has already broken a woman's spine with a simple hug, a macabre reminder that he doesn't know his own strength. His speed is supersonic, reaching Mach 1.5 to Mach 2+, easily outrunning F-16 fighter jets. He moves so fast that, for him, time seems to slow down, allowing him to disarm multiple shooters before they even react. His heat vision, which he uses to cut through planes and melt flesh, is so precise that he can warm a baby bottle without damaging it, but can also incinerate a human being in the blink of an eye, turning bones and muscles into ash. His senses are amplified to a disturbing level. His 200,000 Hz hearing allows him to detect heartbeats, lies, and even a person's blood pressure from miles away. His sense of smell is so keen that he can smell someone's adrenaline when they're nervous or detect hidden explosives. Compound V transformed his body into a perfect war machine, but also into a biological aberration. How do his brain and nervous system withstand this sensory overload and the ability to control such destructive powers without constantly collapsing? The answer is, they don't completely. There's a fine line between what can be pseudo-scientifically explained and what clearly surpasses any real logic, and Homelander lives on that edge. Vought created him to be the apex of human evolution, but what they really got was a predator with the facade of a savior, a being who has the capacity to destroy the world on a whim, and who gets closer to doing so every day. The military pseudoscience behind Compound V is a justification for creating human weapons, and Homelander is the most brutal example that this science, when devoid of ethics, can generate an existential threat. However, when we talk about Homelander, his anatomy doesn't just reside in his muscles and powers, but rather in the dark and twisted depths of his mind. His psychology is a minefield of traumas and disorders. Raised in a cold laboratory, without any real human affection, he developed extreme narcissism and an infantile emotional neediness that make him a ticking time bomb. His obsessive need for approval and love is as great as his deep insecurity, resulting in uncontrollable outbursts of violence. He's a sociopath, capable of manipulating and intimidating with superficial charm, using patriotism, fear, and public adoration as tools of control. Vought subjected him to brutal mental conditioning, turning him into a national symbol, a marketing product. But this ideological brainwashing didn't fill the void of his childhood. He was burned alive in ovens, boiled, and forced to fight enhanced guards, all to test his limits. These dehumanizing experiences broke him, creating a deep emotional disconnection. He can't feel empathy and sees most people as inferior, mere pawns in his power game. The mirror conversation, where he argues with himself, reveals a dissociative identity disorder, a mind fragmented between the perfect hero he pretends to be and the monster he truly is. The question is he a conscious villain who chooses evil, or a being completely broken by institutional manipulation and the absence of humanity? In my opinion, he's both. He's the inevitable result of creating a soulless Superman, a being with absolute power who never learned what it means to be human. This dude is a problem Vought created and that the whole world now has to deal with. His personality cult and his inability to handle rejection make him a constant danger, not just to his enemies, but to anyone who dares to challenge his distorted self-image. He's proof that power without empathy is the recipe for tyranny. With every forced smile, every patriotic speech, a layer of rot is revealed, an abyss of pain and rage that makes him unpredictable and lethal. Homelander's feats are, without a doubt, brutally extreme and serve as a constant reminder of his power and instability. He massacres supes and humans without the slightest effort, surviving explosions that would wipe out entire city blocks. He destroys people with his physical strength, dominates crowds through fear, and takes on entire groups alone, threatening whole cities just by existing. Who can forget the Baltimore mayor's plane he shot down, or Flight 37 that he abandoned to its fate, just to manipulate public opinion? He killed Black Noir, the only one he considered a friend, without hesitation, when he discovered that Noir had hidden the truth about his origin. These acts are not just demonstrations of power, but of cold, calculated cruelty. Compared to other pop culture characters, Homelander stands out for his unique combination of almost limitless power and a completely unbalanced psyche. He's not just a villain, he's a force of nature that cannot be contained, a distorted mirror of what humanity could become if absolute power corrupted absolutely. This is insane, and the scariest part is that he's proud of it. He feels no remorse, only the frustration of not being adored enough. Every act of violence is a cry for attention, a desperate attempt to fill the void left by a loveless childhood. He's a monster who yearns to be loved, and that contradiction is what makes him so terrifying. His acts are a bodily horror, a physical manifestation of his sick mind. The fear he inspires is a powerful tool, but also a reflection of his own insecurity, and lack of control is the inevitable consequence of giving absolute power to a being without empathy. He's not just a villain, he's the inevitable result of creating a being with absolute power without any trace of humanity. Vought created a monster it can no longer control, and the world is its playground. The final reflection is grim. What happens when humanity creates its own Superman, but forgets to teach him humanity? Homelander is the answer, and it's an answer that haunts us. If you dug this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more brutal analyses like this one. See you next time. Peace out.